Europe was warned. Europe ignored. Europe now bleeds. Listen to this guy breaking it down.
This is something that mainstream media probably won't tell you about the Palestinians. So in 1992, Denmark passed a special law called Palæstinenserloven, which translates to the Palestinian Law, and this granted asylum to 321 stateless Palestinians from refugee camps in Lebanon after their applications had already been rejected. You see, Denmark wanted to prove that with compassion, with welfare support, and with opportunity, that successful integration was possible. It's the same thing that the UK is currently doing. So from that original group of 321 refugees from Palestine who were actually coming from Lebanon, 204 of 321 were convicted of crimes. That's roughly 2/3 of them. 71 of them were sentenced to prison. 176 of them were living on government support. They were on welfare. Now, as for the second generation, which included 999 children, 337 were convicted of crimes. About 1/3 of them, actually over 1/3. 132 of them were sentenced to prison, and 372 of them were already receiving government aid. They too were basically on welfare. And according to Denmark's own authorities and statistics, some of these figures are actually a bit undercounted because they don't include people who later left Denmark or passed away, so the real rates are probably slightly higher. Now, Denmark doesn't track crime rates or anything like that by ethnicity, so they didn't track Palestinians individually, but if you zoom out and look at the official Danish statistics using Lebanese origin as a proxy, again, since most of these Palestinian refugees came through Lebanon, you see the same pattern. According to employment figures from Denmark's own statistics, only about 34% of the immigrants from Lebanon between the ages of 30 and 64 were employed in 2015, which is compared to the 80% employment rate among the native Danes. Around 61% of men and 75% of women from this group were on government welfare. For their descendants, their children, the next generation, employment did improve, but it still sat below native levels. Again, roughly 80% of Danish employment levels for men and 65% for women. And these outcomes put this group among the lowest performing immigrant communities in all of Denmark. There are only two communities behind them in terms of doing worse in employment. Those are Somalis and Syrians. And again, this is Denmark that we're talking about. Free healthcare, free education, extensive welfare support, social workers, housing assistance, language courses, and a huge government investment into integration. So what does this actually tell us? It doesn't tell us that some people are born criminal. It doesn't tell us that some people are inherently inferior or incapable. It tells us that mass resettlement from certain conflict-heavy, culturally distant environments without an actual serious integration plan and real limits tends to produce parallel societies with long-term welfare dependence with higher crime. Not the success story that politicians like to make it out to be. This is happening right now in the UK, by the way. It's time to wake up.